There you go. All right. So I'm Ruth Cleet. That's Andy.
Hi, Andy Crusher, one of the board members.
And Dick Murgatroyd.
Dick Murgatroyd, member of the board and a longtime friend of Elsa's, and worked with him for 25 years.
Hello, Jordan Cleet Kosher, Program Officer for the Elsa Sewell Foundation.
And
So up to you.
I can start. I'm Stacy Kaiser, and I'm Development Director for Flying Horse Farms.
And I'm Sandy Wilkinson. I'm the Chief Mission Officer and Camp Director.
And hi, friends. I'm Nicole Dunn. I'm the President and CEO at Flying Horse Farms. It's great to see you all again. I see familiar faces from last year.
Yes.
Look how savvy we are with this virtual meeting stuff. We got it down.
All right. Well, go ahead and start your presentation.
Wonderful. We will just jump right in here. First of all, I want to echo what Nicole said. We're thrilled to be with you and for the invitation. I know this was an incredibly competitive year in terms of grant submissions. So the time that you're taking with each of the applicants or the applicants that have made it to this round to learn more about our organization and knowing kind of the transitions that all of us have gone through in the past year. So we have some exciting things to share, and really wanted to start out, since we couldn't have a family with us online here, and since we're meeting in the virtual space, we thought we'd show a video that would kind of give the opportunity for you to hear from one of our families who's been touched by our mission, and then to see some of the grounds. And it looks like Frank.
Here comes Frank.
Yes. So, and then from there, Nicole will give an overview. And I know Nicole, we have her on the front end, but might not have her on the back end. So certainly want to capture her wisdom and kind of organizational overview of mission, values, and direction and vision. And then Danny's going to share about kind of the pivot that we made from 2019 to 2020, and then where we're going moving forward, and how we would be using the grant dollars from Elsa Sewell Foundation.
Okay.
So, all right, so we will jump in with the video, and let me share that screen here for all of you. It's 4 minutes, and we'll make sure that the sound works just with thumbs up. I tested it beforehand, so it should not be an issue. Okay.
My name is Julie Adams, and I'm married to my husband, Nick Adams, and we have two amazing kids. We have Brady, who is 11 years old, and we have a daughter who is Sydney, and she is 9 years old. Brady has a rare disease that is called eosinophilic esophagitis. It's a bit of a mouthful. Basically, his body thinks that food is a parasite. And so all these foods that we were putting into him that we thought, oh, this is how you learn, this is how you grow, he was allergic to all of them. And that's why he kept vomiting so many times. We had to learn very quickly what all that meant, because when I first heard about eosinophilic esophagitis, I thought it was something that we could easily medicate and he could just go about living his life and it wouldn't affect everything that it has.
Looking at Brady's daily life, he gets up in the morning and he comes downstairs and we have his medication ready to go and formulas. And then in the evening, he takes another round of medication before he goes to bed. Just recently, he had a surgery a couple of days ago. You know, we look at those every 6 months to a year having a surgery. And, you know, for an 11-year-old boy, that's pretty tough to deal with.
I first heard about Flying Horse Farms back in 2018. And as I started researching it a little bit more, I thought, well, wouldn't this be amazing if Brady could go to a place where he could meet other kids that look like him, that have gone through medical challenges just like him, that have feeding tubes like him.
Flying Horse Farms is different from other camps because we make adaptations for every camper that comes through our doors. Our goal at Flying Horse Farms is to be the first prescription for holistic care for our campers and their families.
I was happy that I found a camp that I could go to and see other kids with the same disease I have.
Brady at summer camp this summer was amazing. He was filled with so much energy and excitement when he gets to camp. He really brings up the level of his cabin. This summer in particular, he found a Spider-Man costume and was able to wear that Spider-Man costume all week long.
Camp sometimes makes me forget about my disease, and it also makes me feel like uncomfortable there.
At times, it's felt like his disease has been a punishment, and he's had some hard days. He has to go to the hospital a lot. He's had to be in a lot of treatment, and it has felt like, why has this kid had to go through something like this? And then I think about what he gets to go through when he gets to go to Flying Horse Farms, where he just gets to be a kid.
I would say the impact that Flying Horse Farm has on Brady, just seeing what he's capable of doing and the experiences he has had at Flying Horse Farms. I mean, he's using that daily.
What Brady gets from camp is certainly strength and confidence, and in particular, him being willing to try new things. I think sometimes it can be really hard to put yourself out there and do something that you're uncomfortable with. And we've seen Brady do that a couple of times where he has put himself out there and try something new.
I mean, just in his everyday life, he's taking things from camp and he can put it forth to anything he's doing every single day right now. And he's going to have that experience. He's going to keep on using those experiences every day in his life from here on out.
I feel incredibly lucky that we have found a place like Flying Horse Farms, something so unique, something that I never thought that there'd be a place like that out there for someone like Brady to go to.
We're so thankful that this camp is here, and it's, something that these kids can experience. To see him kind of walk around and kind of lead the pack, it was pretty amazing to see him do that, and you could feel his pride. It just had a huge impact on Brady. I can't think of it enough.
Okay, welcome back from your trip to Mount Gilead. Questions or comments after seeing that video before we jumped into the next piece?
How many children from the greater Cincinnati area do you typically see in a year?
So that video was from our 2019 season, and we had 60 campers from the area during that season. Then this past year, which Danny will share about the pivot we did with Camp at Home, we had, I think it was 168 camp experiences from Hamilton County and surrounding areas, which includes Northern Kentucky and Indiana as well. So Nicole, I can kick it to you to kind of give us, go ahead.
Yeah, I can start. I can kind of recoup us, and then I know that you all are incredibly savvy question askers. And, that's what's so hard about last year when we couldn't bring you to camp. And that was, as Stacy said, just a little slice to have you see what some of the property of the 196 acres look like, to hear from a parent, to see Brady's face, to see his sister, the medical acuity that we're able to provide, but it still isn't the same. And the invitation is always an open invitation for you to come put your footsteps on site at camp, because nothing can replace what we'll talk about in the next hour. But I don't want to make any presumptions, but I think you all, I think you're all familiar from last year's conversation. Is that right? Is anybody new to this conversation from last year? So I'm going to say, I think we met all of you, but I want to just kind of preview it again. And if I'm making a false assumption, just say no, you have to take 10 steps back. But our mission has been able to stay intact even post-pandemic. So something that is incredible about the team and where we are as an organization is that we're celebrating 10 years. So we're quite young in the world of nonprofits and still just getting past the startup phase. So to break ground, open the gates, and then start to approach serving 1,000 students on site, 1,000 kids on site for camp back in 2019 was an incredible trajectory of growth. And so then to have the pandemic hit and to have suspension of on-site programming last year was a significant pivot for us, like most organizations had to, but we had to turn it upside down. But we held true to our North Star and our compass, which is to provide a transformational camp experience for children with serious illnesses and their families at no cost to them. So as you heard from Julie, Brady's mom, it's an entire family experience that happens, even when it is just the child that comes to residential camp. And Danny will speak more to some of those specific outcomes that happen. But our vision is now to become the first prescription in holistic healing. Yes, we want there to be joy. Yes, we want there to be laughter and confidence and that sense of just, leave your illness behind and come and be a kid. That every child that's at camp during Heart Camp Week has that 6-inch scar on their chest and can go into the pool with confidence and not have another child look at them and wonder, why do you have that scar? Where did that come from? It's a no questions asked, no judgment, because you're there with others that get it. It's all familiar. For Brady, who only eats 6 different kinds of ingredients, working with our dining hall and food services team, that's normal. It's normal to have those med diet restrictions and nutritional needs, and nobody says you eat weird, right? It's like, oh, that's just lunch. That's breakfast. Good for you, right? We're just there to enjoy camp, perhaps in a Spider-Man costume. You never know what costume is going to be worn all week long. It is one of the first destinations for some of our campers is to hit the costume closet when they come back at camp. But just to also hone in on some of our values that I personally love to highlight is, first and foremost, it's campers first. So again, you're going to hear Danny talk about how she navigated her team to say, where do we meet our campers where they are through the pandemic when we can't have them on site? The next thing is, you already heard Julie talk about, with trust comes relief. These are parents and caregivers who turn the care of their child, who often cannot spend a night away from home except for a hospital room, who cannot go to a birthday party, who may not be able to jump into a swimming pool without having a pain trauma crisis because of living with sickle cell. They turn the care of their child over to us or to a private Zoom room that when it's remote, and say, wow, I get to hear my kid laugh. I trust the care in them for the first time. And they themselves have an experience of respite. And ultimately, and know that what tops all is fearless is free. These are families and children that live in fear. They're constantly living in just a steady zone and vibration of, at any minute we could go into a crisis of some kind. They have their go bag packed in the mudroom next to the garage door, always in the car. A go bag meaning at any moment we have to buzz off to the hospital. They're always living with that moment of hearing a medication alarm going off every 4 to 6 hours. And so for us to be able to say, we can provide respite, we can provide relief, we can provide a therapeutic disruption to the day that then sets them off with confidence, autonomy. Sometimes they learn skills like how to chew and swallow their own medication, take pills, get comfortable with needle use. It's phenomenal what the medical team's able to do with 6 days or 6 hours, depending on what the program is. But that's just a recap without having to read all the applications that you all read, and just to remind you what we do at Flying Horse Farms and how much you're about to hear Danny talk about. Because of the stalwart support and the ability that we were able to maintain services with our gift from you last year, we appreciated your willingness to say, hey, these are still unrestricted funds, meet your mission, meet those campers where they are. And last year that meant at home. So I echo Stacy's gratitude of thank you for being that friendly funder and allowing us to maintain the connection and disrupt the isolation that so much of us got used to, that our families really needed us last year when they were doubled down in isolation. So thank you for the gift last year. But any general questions before Danny goes into specifics on project and program plans and outcomes, because she's really your pro.
Would you
Refresh for me for 1 second. I remember I read it in your application, but I just don't have it here.
Yeah.
What differentiated you for a camp like this? I remember you mentioned like 2 or 3 things as opposed to like Camp Joy here, locally or something. It was something about 24 medical, or what was the differentiation between you and like Camp Joy?
Sure. Great question, especially being down in the geography that you are. Danny, do you want to take that one or you want me to do it?
You go ahead.
Perfect. So our differentiator one is geography, but also so Camp Joy started off, and correct me if I'm wrong, very specialty focused on kiddos with oncology needs. And they have a direct connection with Cincinnati Children's Hospital. For us, we're able to pull from multiple locations and multiple physician and medical providers. And so when we have a disease state for a child, they may come, like I said, it's Heart Camp Week or hematology, oncology. So they'll be exposed to other kids that are like them, but also others that are in similar disease states. But we have significant partnerships with all 8 children's hospitals in Ohio, plus Pittsburgh. So it allows us to have a greater bandwidth. And then also our activity areas allow for oversight and the psychosocial component that we provide with behavioral health, child life specialists. We have a few more layers and ability to have a broader bandwidth of reach to define that holistic healing. Camp Joy is awesome. Camp Joy is great. I understand they've got new leadership. We look forward to working with them. We want to have a partnership. But I say our differentiator is that at no cost and the bandwidth and breadth that we're able to provide to deliver to meet the whole family's needs.
Jordan, what's the name of the camp down in Kentucky?
Camp for seriously ill children or kids, but I think they have like a DBA. They're doing business as a different name. Camp for Courageous Kids.
Courageous,
Camp for Courageous Kids. They have like 2 names. Yeah, it's south. It's almost in Tennessee. I know.
in Scottsville, Kentucky.
And then another differentiator for us is that we're part of the Serious Fun Children's Network. So we're part of a global network that was founded by Paul Newman. So there are about 7 to 13 camps. There are 13 camps worldwide, I believe, and then 7 camps within the United States. So we work really closely with their team at the network, but then also all of the camps across the globe. We have connections with each of our team members. So Nicole has really strong connections with the CEOs and myself with the camp directors, our development teams, and we all help to make each other stronger. But then we also work with camps like Camp Joy, hopefully for potential partnerships, but they've been up to tour and we see them at recruitment events and see them at events like ACA national conferences. But there is definitely room for us to continue to partner. Ready for me to take it away, Stacy?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sure. So in 2020, we started the year with a full calendar of family camps and residential camps. We had big plans to serve 900 campers on site. And when we heard about the pandemic coming into the United States, I believe it was March 13th was the date that we decided to take a really strong pivot, as the rest of us did in many other programs. We had never done virtual programming before at the scale that we were about to do, but we always had big dreams too. So sometimes our campers are unable to attend on-site camp, maybe in general or maybe last minute because they might need to go to the hospital for a treatment, or we weren't offering programming on site in the winter. So we were always wondering, how can we reach our campers if we can't get them on site? So that was running in the back of our minds. And then when we had to pivot to virtual, we had our social media platforms. So we already had families engaged within Facebook as a platform. And we started there with our virtual programming because it wasn't a huge lift to, tell all our families where to find us. We kind of could just start engaging with them. So we started to share things that were really familiar to our campers and families, like skits and songs and dances. And then from there, we were able to start entertaining live programming and engaging our families on weekends and after school. And we realized that it was great. We had a great reach, but the thing that makes camp so special is really the relationships and the interaction. So we decided to take our programming from Facebook. We opened those channels publicly so more campers and children could really enjoy those songs and dances. But how could we like continue to directly engage? So then we started building programming through Zoom, like we are on right now. So we built different campfires and cabin chats, and then we also delivered a really incredible Camp in a Box program. So we had pickup points, we did mail delivery, and we drove boxes directly to some of our campers' doorsteps to help with any barrier that would be in the way of our campers receiving like tangible joy from camp. So virtual programming went hand in hand with these boxes, or the boxes could stand alone. Some of the families were like, we are zoomed out, but we need some camp love, and we're gonna do it in our backyard. And some families wanted to do both. They pulled their computers outside and they built campfires with us, but the engagement was really awesome. So from there, we developed some virtual family camp experiences. So for 2 full weekends, we engaged with families from Friday to Sunday. It followed a really similar feel to our typical on-site family camps. There was high energy. They both took on, a personality of their own, because camp is really the personality and the people who bring it to life. But it was really incredible and meaningful for the families to just get a dose of camp and for us to continue to build those relationships. We also have a ranger program for teenagers who have aged out of our typical programming. So we were able to do some specific breakouts and cabin chats with them. But the core elements of camp, like campfire and cabin chats, those are the things that separated us from other programs who were doing things that were very similar to us. Like there were a lot of different programs who were doing things on Zoom. There were a lot of different programs who were delivering box-like supplies, but with our programming, we were able to bring a familiarity and that tradition of camp to life. That cabin chat, intimate experience, that debrief, and the moments that are really wonderful directly to our campers. So the opportunity there is that it doesn't just stop in 2020 or 2021. We can really continue to use this model for years to come to reach campers who might not be able to come to camp because it's winter or because they're in the hospital or whatever the barrier is. So it really has helped us to and forced us to open some doorways that we were kind of, seeing a greater obstacle. But we were able to engage former seasonal staff members, volunteers, and it was really wonderful. So through that, we were also, having our eye on this year and how we were going to come back to in-person camps and what is safe. So we relied on our partners within the Serious Fun Children's Network, knowing that every camp is in a different region, so it has a very different experience with the pandemic and COVID-19 and restrictions, but what can we do? So we worked really closely with our medical advisory board. They were lock in step with us every moment, helping us to affirm and make decisions. And we, in late fall, we had 2 different models. So we were gonna come back with family camps, or we were gonna come back with residential camps. And we decided that not only did family camp seem like a very safe model for us to come back with, but we also wanted to really focus on that healing component of families, that connection, vacating that space of just being in their homes and that isolation, and how can we heal families through the camp experience. So this year we're really proud and excited to offer 14 weekend experiences. So we're going to have 2 in the spring, 7 in the summer, and then we'll have 5 experiences in the fall. Many of those might be family camps, but we're also holding out hope that we might have some camper only experiences. We do acknowledge that progressing through camp as a young person, those last final years as a teen, and you're graduating from traditional camp is really meaningful. It's a milestone for our campers. So we're hoping that we can kind of embody some of those experiences into fall programming, or long-term, it might have to be virtual, but what can we do to continue to meet those needs and those milestones of our campers that are just part of being a kid? So really excited about that. We will also be doing some virtual programming. So this winter, we were able to not only meet our campers, but to meet our families. So we hosted some fireside chats. So they were discussions with medical experts, members of our medical advisory board. We held one on vaccines. We had a guest speaker, Rachna Patel. She's a pharmacist from Cleveland Clinic. And then we also hosted one with Dr. Justin Schreiber from the Children's Hospital, Pittsburgh Children's Hospital. He is a pediatrician and a psychiatrist, and he is a camp guy. He's been involved with the Serious Fun Children's Network for many years, and he led a very informal and amazing informational session on mental health and the impacts of the pandemic. And we're hoping to continue to offer experiences for parents, because parents love camp because their kids love camp, but what is it that camp can really offer to parents? So we're hoping to not only heal the entire family, but what do parents need, what do children need, and what resources can camp help provide? Because we have so many resources from hospitals and our medical champions, our behavioral health champions. So how can we really help to get families information that they need and support that they need? So any questions so far about our programming, where we've been, where we're going?
So how do these children find you?
It's a great question. So we have hospital champions, like I just mentioned. So our hospital champions are typically nurses or doctors in the hospital that our campers are their patients, and then word of mouth. So we're hoping to become the first prescription for holistic healing. So if a camper is in the hospital, they are looking for a resource outside of what the hospital can provide, how can camp come in and heal? So that is one way. And then also just like networks through different campers and word of mouth, but we're hoping to really hone in on that specific question and how can we reach more campers. Nicole, is there anything else that you'd like to add there?
And then just from each other, right? Parents who talk to parents, but it really is the direct line from the hospital partnerships. And to reinforce what Danny said, the physician, the application paperwork, imagine, as we were just saying, that have to be filled out between the medication, the ability, being able to stay away from home, that has to all be signed off by the primary physician. So our physicians are our hospital champions, and then oftentimes they'll come and volunteer.
And just to add to that too, we have 15 hospital champions currently from Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and they are from the hematology department, rheumatology department, child life department, as well as the GI department. They'll kind of cover a lot of different niches and areas within that specific hospital too.
Do you have a maximum number of kids you can serve? Do you ever have to turn anybody away?
Yeah, so this year we will be serving 8 to 10 families per family camp session. We just did our placement bonanza, which is what we call our placement meetings. And we have 15 campers on our wait list, but we only placed from spring until summer. So if a family drops out at the last minute, we can welcome one of those 15 families. And then we also have our fall session. So we're not looking at huge wait lists right now, but families are trying to assess with their own dynamic risk assessment if it's safe to return to camp. So at the moment, our numbers are looking really great and our camps will be full. And then we're also going to have that virtual component. So if a camper comes to on-site camp, they're still able to come to virtual camp, or some families are opting just into virtual camp because that's the safest option for them this year.
You have a lot of children return each year.
Yes, we do. I would say about 50 to 60% of our campers return. It's really incredible to see campers grow up at camp. I think that's like one of the the joys of my work is just to see young people develop and grow. We really get to know those families so well. And, we really see campers as individuals within each year, because there's a lot of growth that can happen from one year to the next. So it's just really incredible to get to know the young people who come to camp and the families that support them.
Frank, do you have any questions?
No, ma'am, very interesting.
I have
I have
a
a quick
financial
question.
fundraising question. Oh. You go.
Are you
You go.
deferring to me, Jordan? I had a quick question, just maybe long-term strategic or something, as far as money and grants and things like that. I kind of noticed most of your grants, which is pretty obvious to me, are coming from the Columbus area. Have you tried to reach out to other donors down in this area also?
Yes, Andy, great question, and thanks for doing your homework on that. Our founders who owned the land are originally Columbus residents. So between that and then with Nationwide Children's Hospital and then the close connection west to Dayton, that's where the original kind of crew started and their friends and family, and then added in Northeast Ohio. And in Northeast Ohio, many of the family foundations that are listed are from there. And then for Cincinnati, we're building, and I think this is probably a moment just to show like you said, it's long-term, it's where the future is, but it's that layering and phasing that as we're only 10 years old, start with where we are, what we knew, and then our friends and family grew to our hospital champions, and then being able to reach out now to our friends in the South. And to invite you to camp, and whether that's through event sponsorship or to grow any other healthcare partners, that's where that will come from. Some of it was navigating to the corporate dynamics that are somewhat at play with the companies and headquarters that are down in the Cincinnati tri-state area. But it's important to us that we maintain the regional breadth of what we stand for and those that we serve. So as Stacy shared, with 15 hospital champions and the number of campers and families that we serve from the Cincinnati area, that matters to us, that we have reciprocity of support and service.
Do you have any champions in Northern Kentucky?
Northern Kentucky, that one doesn't strike me as where we have our hospital champions yet, but I may be speaking out of knowledge. Danny, do you know?
Nothing's coming to mind.
It'd be Cincinnati Children's.
And that's the 15 hospital champions that Stacy mentioned. So we have some from there in that the oncology GI departments primarily.
Well, they pretty much serve Northern Kentucky, I think, also, but as far as, because we don't have any children's hospitals as such in this side. I don't know if St. E. Was involved at all or not.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Do you all have any questions for us?
Jordan, did you have a question before we?
He asked the same thing I was going to ask for the most part. So
There you go.
Yeah. Is there anything that you have learned as a foundation funder in this last year where you've had your own pivot?
These virtual meetings would be that. Otherwise, we tried to stay, for the most part, I would say 95% was normal funding, and we had some food pantries that were discretionary COVID type fundings, but for the most part, we tried to stay on regular track because the community foundations in Northern Kentucky and Greater Cincinnati really took on the task of soliciting donations and distributing them for the COVID relief. So we just tried to stay on our own regular track.
I
It's
would say,
great when you get that. Yeah, Jordan.
I was gonna say, we always saw a lot of education, nonprofits, but it seems like over the past year, we've seen that is increased because everyone's kind of talking about how all these kids were out of school, well, they weren't out of school, but they were virtually attending school, and kind of the effect that that's gonna have. And then also kind of that widening gap there was already a gap between kind of, and now the gap's just widening with access to, just different education across the city. So that's, I think, gonna be a long-term effect that we might see from this, is what I'm maybe guessing.
Yeah, you're in a unique seat to be able to be on the receiving end of some of those immediate needs that are kind of like the unfortunate canary in the coal mine, the early indicator of what's going to be a greater need in the next 1 to 3 years when we see the long-term effect of this pandemic. Redefining almost what basic needs are when we talk about public education or public healthcare needs. I can share that, within that, I'll be curious if we're able to maintain our relationship with you where meeting the mental health needs start showing up. And that's why, for us, when we were able to identify 3 years ago, being that first prescription in holistic healing and knowing that a serious illness also means mental health, and the increased trauma and isolation, depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, all of that that's showing up. Where can we make room for meeting the mental health needs of young kids too?
Yeah, we were just talking with someone the other day about that specific topic.
The mental health needs. Yeah, that's scary.
Mind peace.
Yeah, we just hired
go
ahead.
No, go ahead. No.
No, I was just going to say Danny just hired a behavioral health program manager who has a master's in social work, has expertise in trauma-informed care. So we're putting that as part of our medical team and programmatic outcome needs. So we've got a front seat expert on our full-time staff to make sure that is equal to meeting the acuity needs of specific disease states, that they're one and the same.
I don't have any other questions. I don't know if anyone else has any other questions. So if not, our board meets a week from today on April 29th. We like to get back to everybody within a week of the meeting. So the next week, the first week in May, you'd be hearing back from us.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jordan. And if you have any more questions, I hope that you know that Stacy is standing at the ready with the keyboard trigger to send you any documents or answer any questions that you might have between now or that come out from the board meeting. But we're happy to send any other links or attachments or stories or anything to make your decision making easier.
Okay, great. Thanks for taking the time this afternoon to meet with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you all. Stay healthy.
All right, bye-bye.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
All right.